Are there policies that are outdated or that are hurting our growth? Sometimes the reason why you're slow, sometimes the reason why the business is not performing well is that you have dead policies, you have expired policies, you have irrelevant policies, you have practices that are no longer relevant.
Welcome to another day of growth with Moses.
The other conversation that you should be having is a conversation on the overgrown evils in your company. A conversation on the overgrown evils in the company, confronting what you've tolerated for too long. You see, every business develops toxic habits, attitudes, and systems that if left unchecked, they'll push the business down, they'll hinder the business from growth. So one of the conversations you should be having as a person who leads a company is a conversation on the overgrown evils in your company. The things that are inappropriate that you've tolerated for years. Because the reason for hierarchy, the reason why God created hierarchy, he knew that at some point he knew that all of us are responsible, but others are more responsible than others. So if you have what people call subordinates, people under you, the key question is, what are you tolerating? As a person who founded the business, as a managing director, as a business leader, one of the key conversations you should be having, the conversation about the overgrown evils in your company. And the few guiding questions to help you will be questions like, what bad behaviors have I been tolerating? I see this quite often. I see this a lot. When you meet decision makers, when you meet managers, when you meet founders, they keep talking, they keep complaining, they keep talking about the ineffectiveness they're seeing in person A, person B, person 3, how the other guy. The key question is that, yes, you know it, but what are you doing about it? Let's use the power. Let's all of us, let us use the power that God has given us in the different roles and positions he has given us, he has entrusted us. You get it? So, simple question, what bad behaviors have I been tolerating? Make a list of the bad behaviors that you've been tolerating. Because the bad behaviors that you're tolerating, it's just a matter of time. They are going to grow to a point that they're going to create a bottleneck that you can no longer pass through it. That advancing is going to be hard. The other question to think about is, what recurring issues do we always talk about but never fix? One of the reasons why time came and I got bored over meetings is getting in meetings and talking about stuff that is painful, but you never do anything about it. So as a business owner, as a person in charge of a business, question you need to be thinking about is, what recurring issues do we always talk about but never fix? Make a list of those recurring issues and get a little bit more serious and intentional. Design a plan to begin to address them. Because whatever you do not address has a tendency of growing. Whatever you do not address will grow. Whatever evil that you do not want to confront is literally going to grow. So as you're working on your business, as you're thinking about, as you're having a conversation on the overgrown evils within your company, key helpful question is, what recurring issues do we always talk about but never fix? Make that list and make a resolution to respond to them. Then the other key question is there corruption, waste, or dishonesty hiding in plain sight? So look at things like corruption, things like waste, things like dishonest, things like lack of integrity, things like lies. Because this stuff is happening, it's happening in our workplaces. I've gotten a few projects where I've been taken on as a consultant, and I'm seeing dishonesty in plain sight, and I'm seeing cases of corruption, I'm seeing bribery, I'm seeing And then I'm trying to address it and the person puts me aside and is like, you know what, Moses, man, just be easy, be easy. The man is trying to look for, he's trying to get an extra income, and you get my point. But at the end of the day, one of the things that you need to know is that every issue you're going to leave unaddressed. You see, the snakes you're refusing to kill, they're going to bite you. The lions that you're permitting to grow, they are going to eat you. The beasts that you're grooming, they're going to eat you. So as you run your business, as you are functioning in that role that God has given you as a company owner, as a business owner, as a business leader, the quick question, is there corruption? Is there waste? Is there dishonest? Is there any evil that is hiding in plain sight? I'm talking about plain sight. I'm talking about things that are trying to hide, but you actually see them. Because I see kickbacks all over the place. I see crazy stuff going on. So take a bird's eye view. Get out of your business. Have that difficult conversation. The other key question, as you are having the conversation on the overgrown evils in your company, is are there policies that are outdated or hurting our growth? Are there policies that are outdated or that are hurting our growth? Sometimes the reason why you're slow, sometimes the reason why the business is not performing well is that you have dead policies, you have expired policies, you have irrelevant policies, you have practices that are no longer relevant. If you know that if you know that a flexible work arrangement can give you results, do not be hard on having every person get in office. If you know that an email is enough, don't ditch the practices of the morning meetings 7 times a week. If you know that within 15 minutes a meeting can be done, get away from the routine of 60 minutes of a meeting, 90 minutes of a meeting, and reduce everything to 15 minutes. So, everyone has policies. Every company has policies that may be different from the other. But as you're having this conversation, as you're thinking about the overgrown evils within your company, this is a key question. Are there policies that are outdated or that are hurting our business? Make a list of those policies and be intentional and make a resolution to ditch them. So the other question is, have we allowed a toxic culture to develop? You see, talking about culture, culture is not like a piece of software that you have to buy, like an antivirus, and install it within the company and it begins to work. Culture is not like a spirit that you need to pray and then it comes out. Culture is just a series of repeated practices that have been approved and endorsed to stay operational. They're basically practices. Productivity is a culture. Getting in early is a culture. Meeting deadlines, being serious. There are so many small practices that form a company culture. And the thing about whether you're intentional about building a culture or not, you will build a culture. When you're not intentional about, the only point when you need to be intentional about building a culture is when you want to build a good one. But if you don't mind about having a conversation on culture and stuff like that, then the culture is going to build itself. Like I said, culture is basically a series of repeated small things that have been tolerated to thrive, practices that have been allowed. So again, they will always be there, you get. But the key question, have we allowed a toxic culture to develop? Because as long as you have toxicity at the level of culture, the battle is a little bit more complicated than you might actually think. So if you are watching and listening and reading content on things like this and you're still in your early stages, you're actually blessed. Sometimes good information, sometimes we learn late, but nevertheless, whenever you learn, make a resolution to change, to adapt and create a meaningful life. The other key guiding question here is, are certain people protected from accountability? Being held accountable is being held responsible over your actions. The system says there are key roles. The system talks about the key roles that need to be worked on. The system talks about the key deliverables. But ask yourself a question, are certain people protected from accountability? Because the thing about a workplace is that in the workplace, There are no young people. Young people are still in school, but in the workplace, even the smallest human being is an adult. They are watching. So, as a person in charge of a business, as a business leader, as someone who has been entrusted to steward a business, you need to step back and ask yourself a question. Are certain people protected from accountability? If it's a yes, who exactly and why? Because as you are letting it pass, they are watching. They are watching. The rest are watching, and they're going to do the same thing. You know, the bad thing about the vices that we do not want to address in our lives is that they're going to be copied fast. It's only bad characters, it's only inappropriate behavior that is copied fast. It's a human thing. As you are thinking about this, the key question is, are certain people protected from accountability? Make some notes on this and make a resolution to act on that. The other one is, what bottlenecks have become normal? Now, a bottleneck, I think everyone knows a bottleneck is basically that small part that when you are pouring, things don't come out at a go. You understand? Like, what bottlenecks have become normal? What are those things? You know, when you're going through a bottleneck, it's a bit hard unless you're fluid. But when you're going through a bottleneck, there is something that slows you down. So for some reason, as you are running a company, there are some bottlenecks that come. There are some things that you create that makes it hard for things to move. That's what we call bottlenecks. So key guiding question here is, what bottlenecks have become normal? What have you normalized? What hardships, what channels have you normalized that are making it hard for certain things to happen? That are making it hard for certain things to be made possible? Make a list of those bottlenecks and resolve to act on them. The other key guiding question that you might actually find useful is, what unresolved issues are hurting morale or trust? You know, one of the hardest things that I've learned over the years is that whatever you tolerate will increase, will double. You get, whatever you leave unresolved gets an opportunity to grow and double in terms of capacity, in terms of weight. And when some of these things are big, are hard, and they are left unresolved, you're going to wake up to a beast that you cannot actually confront. You're going to wake up and confront a situation that you are incapable of handling because it's been years of tolerance. It's been years of unresolution. So, key conversation that you should be having in your business, a conversation on the overgrown evils in your company. What unresolved issues are hurting morale and trust? It could be an issue that you've ignored for a year, for 2 years, for 3 years from the beginning. But as long as you're intentional and you know, they say the first step of healing is acknowledging the presence of an issue. Just acknowledging and knowing that this is my problem, this is my issue, I've written it down and I'm resolving. Key thing, what unresolved issues are hurting morale or trust? And the final guiding questions on addressing the overgrown evils in your business is, what needs to be radically changed or removed? The key word here is radical. The key word here is radical. It's a ruthless decision. It's a desperate decision. It's an if I die kind of decision. There is a point where you reach and you get to a moment of reality that this has been so huge. This has been tolerated long enough and we need a radical change. We need a sudden change. And this stuff is all over happening. It's all over the world happening. Organizations are evolving, and because at the end of the day, you rather save the organization now, because if you do not save it now, you know, the thing about growth happens when you don't feel. And the thing about stagnation, also stagnation happens without feeling it. And the thing about hitting rock bottom, you also hit rock bottom very slowly but sure. You just wake up one day and you lost. So when you're lucky to begin to having some of these uncomfortable conversations, you need to pay attention, and take a few steps that may be uncomfortable. Key question is, what needs to be radically changed or removed? Again, this is another day of growth, and my hope is that as we have these conversations, someone is going to be helped at the root level, not at the surface level. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to sharing with you more in the next episode.
Thank you for joining us on another day of growth with Moses. If you would like access to more episodes, please subscribe to this channel. And if you enjoyed this episode, help us share and spread word about it. Till next time, we meet again on another day of growth with Moses.